14th year at Barstow, and love every minute of it. It's an unbelievable place to work. I'm also a parent here. I'm a parent of a third grader and a fifth grader. So my daughter is going on this trip to DC. She's very excited about it. And I have watched the difference that these trips make in our students' lives and their development. It's unbelievable when our fifth graders come back from the DC trip in the spring. They're different kids for sure. I've been really fortunate in my time at Barstow to lead some of these student trips, both domestically and internationally. So I've been to Boston with the eighth graders. I've also been to Japan a couple of times with some of our student groups, and traveling with Barstow kids on these excursions is it's a really great experience for us as educators too. So overall, an incredibly unbelievably life-changing experience for all of our kids, and I hope that you're excited about it. I'm sure that particularly for my fifth graders, rising sixth graders, there might be some nerves and some butterflies, and it might be for you as well. But rest assured, we take great care of the kids, and we've done this many times before. So you've got an experienced group that are going to be looking out for your students and making sure that they have a great experience. So thanks, Joe.
And we're lucky to have Eric and Alex join us from Grand Classroom, who's our travel partner, and I'll let them introduce themselves. Alex, you want to go first?
Hi, everyone. I'm Alex. I'll be the main name you'll see around town here as you start to sign up and things start coming out your way for information. If you have questions, you can reach out to me and let me know. You can email me from our website. You can also email me directly at alex@grandclassroom.com. I'm here to kind of help Todd and Joe get work through all the details, handle the logistics, all of that side of things, so that they can focus on building the educational and really the content for your kids and getting you guys out on the road. We're here to support as far as the overall safety, and that's our first thing when it comes to these trips. Grand Classroom itself has been around for about 20 plus years now, I think, right, Eric?
20 on the nose.
Yeah, 20 on the nose. We've been guiding kids national parks, historic cities for many years. This is what we do. It's what we love. So we're really excited to be partnering with Barstow School to be getting your kids out there. And Eric, you want to kind of jump in and introduce yourself?
For sure. Eric Scholes. I'm in the home office of Grand Classroom. Home office is located in Charlottesville, Virginia. 2 hours south of Washington, D.C. It's nice because with a lot of our trips that go to D.C., this gives us the opportunity to go up and visit folks, go up, and if there is something that we need to do up in the city, or any issues or anything like that, we can be up there. Plus, we do have an office in Washington, D.C. as well. So it's kind of nice to be in this community. Personally myself, I have been in the student travel business for my whole adult career, which is kind of weird to say, but I do love the industry, and I do appreciate the opportunity for us to work with the Barstow School this year, not only on the DC trip, but the St. Louis trip that we're also partnering with as well. Super excited to be working with the community. I love coming to Kansas City and seeing everybody in person, and would love to continue the relationship as we've kind of got to this point. Excited about DC. I could talk forever, but I'm going to cut myself off fairly quickly because we have time. But you picked a great time to travel to Washington, DC, because of the amount of student travel is kind of like really wanes off by the end of July. Great time to go. Weather should be nice. We won't have any snow to deal with flights and that kind of stuff. But anyway, it's a great time to go. We have less to worry about. We can roll. We have more flights, accessibility with hotels. Everything kind of lines up for success. So thanks for letting us host you and Barstow on this trip to Washington, D.C.
Appreciate that, Eric and Alex. I'm going to share my screen, so hopefully you can see my screen at this point. We're not going to bombard you with slides or anything like that. We got some basic information for you to see. I'm going to send you the recording of this session later today or tomorrow. I'll also send you the slides, which have our contact information. Everybody's aware of the basic trip information that we've been sending out via email. The registration link will be in there one more time. I really just wanted to show you the results that people sent in. We had 16 responses, which isn't a ton, but not surprising from my standpoint what people are most interested in, which is the day and night groupings, what the hotel looks like, and the chaperone selection. And we'll certainly talk about those here in a second. I also wanted you to see some of the common questions that we received when we sent out that initial survey. We're not going to answer these specifically right now, but we will make sure we hit on these as we kind of go through general topics to discuss. And we're going to try to keep it as organized and concise as we can, knowing that at this point, things aren't solidified as in terms of what airline we're specifically flying, what hotel we're specifically staying at. However, those things will come into picture once we know exactly how many registrants we have and the total number. Then the Grand Classroom can start getting all those things put in place for us. So we basically have 4 main areas that we want to talk from today and come at from various viewpoints. And Todd, Eric, Alex, and I will kind of just bat around these topics. If you do have questions, please do not hesitate to chat us in this Zoom session. So as we're speaking and things come up, don't hesitate to chat any of us and say, what about this? And as you can send a chat message to any of us, and as they come in, we will make sure they get answered. You can also just chat us and say, hey, I have a question, and I'm happy to unmute parents if I can find you in the list here and let you come in and ask the question, without typing it in. So let's kind of start. First topic today is travel logistics. We'll kind of start with airfare and air travel. Air can be scary. 5th through 7th graders, 50 to possibly 100 students all in the airport at one time. I was pleased over the years with how smoothly it went from my perspective. We try ideally, and I've told Alex, Southwest has been a good airline for us to travel with in the past. We tell parents to plan on checking a bag. So students come in, they know they're going to check a bag. We try to board first and talk to the airline beforehand and say, hey, we have 70 elementary and middle school students. We'd love to sit in the back of the plane and all sit together. And a lot of times they will accommodate that request. And so we'll have day groups and night groups. Talk about that more in a second. But as students come into the airport, we kind of go through security in those day groups. So an adult chaperone is looking over the students as they're checking bags, making their way then to security, going through security, and then waiting at the gate for the plane to take off. Corey and myself, Corey is the assistant director of middle and upper school. He was going to join us, but he had a competing meeting today. We're both going on the trip. And so Corey and I would normally stay. We don't go through security until the very end. We make sure all the students arrive, have gone through security. And so we are the last ones through to make sure that everybody gets to the gate, everybody's in the right spot, and get to where they're supposed to be. Did I miss anything? No, I think I covered everything that I wanted to say. Todd, anything you want to add?
No, I think again, going back to the fact that we've done this a lot of times before, and we've worked with large groups of kids and helped them get through the airport. So I know it's a little can be a little disconcerting, but rest assured, we'll get them through and on the plane and make sure that they get where they need to be.
If I can add, just so you know, for the parents, the travel starts, everybody's going to meet at the school, and we will have a bus that takes everybody to the airport. So you can drop your children off at the school, transfer bus to the airport, so you don't have to go all the way out to the Kansas City airport. And then that will help with the organization, getting everybody kind of organized on the bus to get into the airport and roll from there.
Great.
And that goes for the same on the return flight. A bus will meet everybody once they arrive, and we'll have them. So you'll be able to meet back at the school.
Excellent. Another big item is the hotel. Staying fairly close to the city. We normally do 4 students to a room. We try to keep the day groups and the night groups. First of all, the students do get choice. So and we'll talk about this more in a second, but the students will have a say and get to tell us who they would want a room with, who they don't want a room with. And then we spend a great deal of time. You'd be amazed how many hours were spent when I was teaching 5th grade, grouping students together. We know that's one of the things I think Barstow does really well. We get to know students well. We know those social dynamics. We try to set them up for success in the best possible way. And so 4 students to a room. We do in the night groups, we will be grouping by grade level. We're going to try to group by grade level in both the day and the night groups. We have to see how everything works out, but definitely on the night groups, we want them grouped by grade level. There will be security on the floor to oversee the kids. A lot of times we'll sandwich the rooms with adult, like if there's a staircase if obviously there's a staircase somewhere in the hotel, we put an adult next to the staircase so that they can be alert if they hear anything. We also, every few rooms with adults, will position the adult rooms in between. One of the questions that came in was, do adults stay in the kid rooms? The answer is no. The 4 students are in the room by themselves each evening. We collect cell phones each evening from students, so they're not in a room with 4 cell phones. The chaperone of each group will collect the 4 phones from a room, take them to their room, plug them in. We give the kids an opportunity to say goodnight to their parents through text or calling them. So it won't be a surprise before lights out. Collect the phones, charge them, and then the students go into the room. I also, in the past, and plan to for this trip, will tape the doors of the room with a little masking tape in the corner, just to inform us if any group of students were to open the door at night for any reason. We can touch base with them the next morning and say, hey, I see you opened your door last night. Is there something I need to be aware of? Doesn't happen too often, but it's always nice from the chaperone standpoint to kind of get a sense each morning of which doors were opened after we do a lights out check. Anything I missed from my list here? Todd, anything that comes to mind?
I think you did a nice job covering everything, Joe. I think, one of the main things that I want to just reiterate is night groups in particular. Our rising 6th graders will be with other rising 6th graders, 7th, 8th graders respectively, and then security on the floor to make sure that we're monitoring those students. Alex, can you reiterate for me what time is security on the floor?
Yeah, so we do business class hotels, as Joe mentioned. There's no access to the outdoors directly from rooms. Kids they have to go into the hallway. There's evening security, and it's just uniform security that comes at night. Generally, they show up around 10 o'clock and they stay till about 2 in the morning, 3, depending on the group and comfortability. But those are generally the hours that security is on the floor. And they're there to just make sure the kids stay in their room. If something were to come up, they know where the chaperone rooms are. They are able to go, and if the students need assistance in the middle of the night, they can open their door, talk to security, and they can go directly to their chaperones with an adult who will make sure that they're safe. Security does not enter the children's rooms at any point. They are just there to let the chaperones get some rest and know that the kids are safe and monitored, but also they know how to get your child directly to someone that they know should something happen. Is that anything else, Todd, as far as questions?
No, I think that's great. Helps illustrate that point.
A frequent question is what kind of hotels. We use business class hotels, so Marriott, Spring Hill Suites, things of that nature. And you will have the flight information and hotel information roughly about a month prior to departure. That's another frequent question on this topic. We lock in everything before we share that so that you're not having to monitor a bunch of changes prior to departure. So we send out a parent pack about a month before you guys leave. And on the itinerary, you will have all of the details plus emergency numbers to access for Grand Classroom as well as the I
got a very good question over the chat, which was, who is in charge of the airplane tickets. So in the past, we have actually printed a deck of all the airline tickets, and I have them in my possession in alphabetical order. And as students on the bus, or I mean, I wouldn't hand them out on the bus, but as we were going into the airport, I would be handing out individual tickets to every student to make sure it's in hand as they go to check a bag or to go through security. That seemed to work fairly well in the past, but that was years ago, Alex and Eric. I don't know, it's a digital age. Can we still use the paper tickets, or do we have to do something electronic?
So it's nice and easy this go around. You will have a flight manifest with everybody's names. You check in, the attendants check you in. The kids do not have to be responsible for their tickets. That's Joe's happy job. And so we have the flight manifest, and it's a lovely electronic world now. So no kid is going to be worried about dropping their ticket on the airport floor.
Question that I had that Todd and I had yesterday: how about identification for students? Do they need to bring a passport or some student ID or anything that would, they're going to need at the airport to show as they get on the plane?
So as far as the airport, no. If they are under 18, they're not required to show ID. Anyone over the age of 18 is required to show ID.
Excellent, thank you. Let's talk about packing items and what we recommend the students bring on the trip. We are going to have the kids very busy day in, day out. We get up early, we have breakfast, we hit the road, there's a lot of things to see, and we're constantly going. So I think the biggest thing from my standpoint are comfortable shoes, socks. We don't, kids getting a blister would be a tough go. We're going to do a lot of walking. Megan Culver had it down to a mileage amount at one point. I have to talk to her about what that number was. I don't even want to guess at this point, but having comfortable shoes daily, some extra outfits and clothing. It will be hot. It'll be July. I'm sure it'll be 80 to 90 degrees somewhere in that area. So some extra clothes that students may want to bring in a little bag to change into if they're sweating throughout the day, things like that. We recommend, if students want to bring personal care items, deodorant, obviously the hotel will have basic things, but bring in things that they're going to use in the hotel room. That's perfectly fine. Probably should go into the check bag, make it easiest to transport. We recommend one nice pair of clothes. When I say nice, I mean like khaki shorts and a polo shirt for the guys going on the trip. We say that because we try to lay a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. And I know that Alex has been working on that. And so it's nice on that day to look a little bit nicer when we go to Arlington National Cemetery. Some students actually lay the wreath. And so, for those students that are laying the wreath, hopefully we'll know that in advance which students are going to do that. So they'll have even more preparation. But it's always nice. We always want to, look the part when we take part. And that's a pretty cool ceremony if anybody's been able to see that. And I hear that I saw Amy, I think in here. Amy, I heard that your grandfather or father is buried at Arlington National Cemetery. So we definitely want to see that grave site as well. Comfortable shoes and socks. Oh, a rain jacket or a poncho, something light that you can put easily and fold down and get it into a crevice of your suitcase is important. If it rains, we're going. That's just, we're just going to get wet. That's kind of where we want students to, be comfortable and be dry, bring an extra set of clothes. So big poncho, big rain jacket. We'll definitely, I remember one time we went, I have a big Royals jacket that I wear that was rain resistant, and I got put to good use a couple times, but whatever's on the itinerary for the most part, we're pushing through. So we want to make sure if it is raining, kids have some protection. And then, just trying to be smart overall with what you're bringing. We don't need tons of pairs of shoes. We don't need 1,000 different outfits. Just we try to keep it to one check bag and a small carry-on item that they'll take with them day to day. Most of the hotels do have a swimming pool. We're not opposed to students swimming. At the end of the day, we'll kind of see what the schedule looks like. That's something so students might want to bring a bathing suit to go swimming. in my experience, students are so exhausted by the end of the day that a lot of students actually will pass on swimming and they want to just go right to bed. So, but it is an option to bring that as well. We had a lot of questions about spending money. Should we bring spending money? Totally up to each family. We do recommend that you bring some spending money. All meals are taken care of, is my understanding. Eric and Alex, 3 meals a day. So they'll have breakfast at the hotel. There'll be lunch. There'll be dinner. So that's taken care of. But anything additional that students want to spend money on throughout the course of the trip, souvenirs, snacks, if we're waiting at the airport or something like that. Parents have done it many different ways in the past, from giving their students a debit or credit card to just giving students, cash to bring on the trip. I think $100 would be more than enough to give to students and feel very comfortable that they'll have anything extra that they need without feeling like you have to give them a ton of extra spending cash. What'd I miss?
Alex and Eric, can you talk to us a little bit about what to expect in regards to meals in particular?
Yep. So, I mean, Eric, you have a longer experience with these meals than I do. If you want to go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. So, as Joe said, all meals are included in the trip. So therefore, breakfast at the hotel first thing in the morning. We will have a time that everybody kind of comes down in the morning. And then lunch always tends to be a little bit quicker on the move, because we're usually trying to get from one location to another, or we have a nice box lunch on the mall by the Smithsonian museums. It's just, we want to always are trying to keep the flow of the trip going. So what I mean by that is saying we do a box lunch just for the purpose of getting to another location without wasting or having to sit down. I don't want to say wasting, because I think of the whole time that they're there, it's valuable, but getting from one location to the next, grabbing a box lunch, fantastic. And then dinners are always going to be at a sit down location during the trip. We want the kids to take a time to reflect with each other, talk, sit down, have a nice, probably you'd say a bigger dinner, as much as we can say that. It always depends on the student. And if you have a son or daughter that have any dietary issues or anything that we need to, don't worry about that right now. We will send an email for you to prompt you to send that information to us. If we have any vegetarians, I have to stay away from this kind of food, whatever that might be. We'll collect that at one time. And then we pass that on to our guides that are going to be with the group so that they are set up for success. So if they need to get 5 vegetarian lunches, they will have those available in advance. So the parents don't have to follow up. The teachers don't have to follow up. It's just all on our shoulders. And we want to make sure that the more information we can provide to our guides, the easier it's going to be on everybody. So when you are prompted for any medical or dietary information, please give us as much information as you can, or if you have none, great, we'll roll.
I would like to add with that, you will receive some communication from mail@grandclassroom.com. Also myself, Alexandra at grandclassroom.com. So just make sure, we're not caught up in spam. Sometimes that can happen with these automated emails, which is the medical behavior forms and the dietary forms. They do come from mail@grandclassroom.com. So you can also always go into your account that you signed up on and add the information there. You don't have to wait if you do not want to. If you have, you can just sign in and go to additional travel information and enter your information there as well. It is completely up to you, but you will receive some communication from us. So just make sure you keep an eye on the main primary email that is in your Grand Classroom account.
Perfect.
Any questions also on that, you can email help@grandclassroom.com and we can help you if you have any issues signing in or things of that sort.
Great. And the only we have 2 questions that came through. One was about dietary restrictions. So thanks, Eric, for answering that for us. Second question, is there a limited number of students that can go? No, not really. We'd love for all students to go, actually. It's open to any student in rising 6th, 7th, and 8th, which would be quite a few. I mean, bring it on. We love it. It kind of, that question is a great question because it kind of segues into the second big topic we want to talk about, which is grouping and chaperones. So I'm excited to tell you that we had over 15 faculty members here that expressed interest in going, which was a shocking number to me. Giving up a week in July to take a trip, I think it speaks to how meaningful this trip is. We're trying to bring as many of those chaperones as we possibly can. We'd love for all 15 to come with us. That would mean that 150 students would have to sign up. That would be pretty darn close to every single student in the 3 grade levels. So I'm going, Corey's going. So the 2 of us will be in attendance. We have put out an invitation to 5 Barstow faculty members, all of whom have significant experience with this trip. For the most part, one is Megan Culver, who organized this trip for 10 or 15 years, if not more. Brooke Thompson, who organized this trip after Megan stopped organizing the trip. Amy Buckner, who is currently in 5th grade organizing trips. Jean Stribling, who is the middle and upper school administrative assistant and knows all the students. And Jessica Chanos, as a school counselor, what we thought was a good person to have on this trip as well. So those are the 5 people that have been invited so far. We look forward to hopefully all 5 of them joining us. We also have 2 parents that are joining us because of the unique health circumstances of their children. They need to accompany and be close to their children. So we're making we're making it possible for them to come as a part of the group. So we're trying to keep the chaperones limited to Barstow faculty, unless there's a unique circumstance that we need to be aware of. And if there is, certainly let Todd and I know. I've had parents before that have made their own plans to join us in DC. Certainly won't stop you from doing that. We just wouldn't incorporate you as a part of our tour group. But I've had families over the years that the parents have chose to fly out to DC and be in the same area at the same time, and sometimes even have requested that their kids stay with them after the conclusion of the trip. And so that's something that we could talk about offline, but that's what we're looking like for chaperones at this time. We hope that a ton of students sign up, and as more and more students sign up, we will continue to add more and more faculty chaperones, which is just, in my mind, a great thing to have happen. So let's talk about day groups and night groups. Each chaperone is assigned to a day group or a night group, and in some cases, multiple night groups to be collecting phones. The day groups are going to be 10 or less students per adult, probably less, probably in the 7 or 8 range. I mentioned that we're going to try to separate students by grade level. We will definitely separate them at night by grade level. However, during the day, we might have some groups that have a little bit of crossover. I mentioned that we like to vary the kids in each group. We don't want the same kids we don't want the same grouping of kids in the day and night group, because 24 hours straight with the same people, as you all know, can get a little tiresome at times. So we like to have a little bit of freshness. And I mentioned that students will have a say in who they would like in their day and night groups. And a lot of time is spent trying to put that puzzle together. And it certainly is a tough puzzle, but we try to have enough names on that list of students that are going so that students will see at least 1 or 2 familiar names from what they wanted when they see their eventual day or night groups. I mentioned about the phones. I mentioned that the adults try to strategically place themselves in the hotel, so they're at important points. I mentioned 4 kids in the room. I mentioned security. I think I have hit pretty much everything that I wanted to hit regarding groupings and chaperones. Todd, anything else that comes to mind for you?
You covered this already, Joe, but just to reiterate, I had a question come to me via chat: can parents volunteer? And the simple answer to that question is not this particular trip, because of the number of faculty members that we had interested. We won't require parent volunteers on this particular trip, but we do appreciate you all expressing interest and going along. Like Joe said, faculty interest has really been overwhelming. So incredibly grateful to all those folks.
Just had a couple of questions come in through the chat. The first is about the security guard and having a background check. Alex and Eric, I'm guessing you use a third-party service where they take care of all the necessary checks and information regarding the security guards?
Yes, That is, we use third-party vendors where everyone is vetted, and they take care of all of that. If you have specific questions about who we use, as soon as we get that vendor locked in, we'd be happy to share that information.
So another question is about the groupings during the day normally are staying together. So the question that I received was, a student needs to use the bathroom, how does that work during the day? So the group would kind of just move over to that area, and they would just wait while the student uses the restroom, and then the whole group would go somewhere else. I mean, when I was in Boston chaperoning some fairly large groups of our 8th grade students, I would tell, some student, maybe the girls in the group wanted to go to Abercrombie, and the guys in the group wanted to go to Foot Locker if we had time to shop or something, and we'd say, okay, the whole group has to go to one place, and then the whole group will go to the other place too. So we just kind of, we try to, as a group, move from place to place. There's not a time where it's like half the group goes to this store and the other half is going to another store, and the chaperone is not keeping them all together at the same time. Will there be snacks available for the kids at night after they get to the hotel? Depends. A lot of hotels have food available in the front lobby. Students could certainly go and purchase that. I don't think we will be providing a dedicated snack for students after the 3rd meal of the day, which is dinner. A lot of times students would pack their own food in their suitcase prior to travel. So if there's things that your student wants to eat, feel free to throw those granola bars, protein bars, trail mix, those kind of things in the checked bag. And then students can have access to it, obviously, in the hotel room each night if they need something before bed, or they can put it in their daily pack when they're traveling. What happens if the student gets sick? Well, that's a good question. Let's go there next. That's our next big topic, is health protocols. Hopefully in July, things are actually looking much more normal and improved. As an overarching theme, our school policies will dictate the travel and trip policies. And what our current school policies are right now are not necessarily anywhere close to what they will look like in July. So keep that in mind. There is Grand Classroom has a doctor on call at all times. Alex or Eric, do you want to explain a little bit more about who that person is and what that looks like?
Yep. Eric, you want to go ahead?
Oh, sure. So, I guess more than ever, we found it imperative that we'd have somebody available. And we do have another service that we work with that will help out in case our guides need some assistance, the teachers needs assistance, or some advice. We can go to and call the doctor that we have, and they can give us advice accordingly, as in, do we need to get more additional medical attention? We're fine. We should quarantine the student, whatever that might be. So therefore, we are kind of if we do need additional medical attention, we will make sure that we will get to the right facility and get the medical attention that student might need. I opened it up, like if we needed to quarantine somebody, we would certainly do that as well. That is on Grand Classroom dime for not only the student, but also for the teacher that's going to be kind of assisting. Would never leave a student behind at the hotel by themselves. And to make sure that that student is comfortable and has somebody to refer to at all times. For the parents, we also have a 24-hour service, an on-call service that is the phone number for that can be found on our website or on the itinerary that you will all have access to. And so if you do need, let's say the student isn't feel comfortable enough asking adult and they called the parent at home, the parent can call the 800 number, and we can also relay messages to the guide, to the teachers, whatever we might be. It always depends. Every kid situation is different, but we will certainly do. And the safety is, I know it's kind of everybody reiterates, but it does mean a lot to us. We want to make sure everybody's safe, having a good time, and also healthy. So therefore, we will do whatever is needed at the time to make sure everybody's feeling comfortable.
Great. Doing this trip as long as we have, I've been on trips where students have gotten sick before. I really see the process for this trip being very similar to the process that we've used in past trips, whether it's COVID or strep throat or a stomach virus, pink eye, whatever it might be. Student gets sick. There's immediate communication with the parents from an adult like myself or Corey that's going to reach out, explain the situation. Should a student get sick in a way where they're vomiting or they have a fever or something like that, we'll isolate that student in their own hotel room. We'll be contacting the parent to discuss what's going on. We will then go and seek medical help for the kid. So whether that's Corey or myself taking the student in a taxi to an urgent care or some sort of place to get seen, we'll do that, and then we'll see what it is and rely on the doctors to tell us what the prognosis is. If it is something obviously like COVID and there's a quarantine period, we would be coordinating with the parents and asking them to come if that quarantine period is extending through the end of the trip, coming out and picking up their child. If it's something where we can get a student on a course of antibiotics and it's a day or two in recovery and the student can keep going on the trip, that's great too. So it's every situation is unique in how they arise, and we kind of deal with them individually, just making sure the parents are aware of what's going on, seeking out help and care for that student, and then putting together a plan for how we're going to resolve the situation from a health perspective or from a care perspective in terms of getting that kid coverage and supervision if the group needs to leave before that student can get on an airplane, feel well enough to come back. One of the biggest things that we do each day revolves around medicine, giving medicine each day. So at breakfast each morning, one of the things that we will bring the chaperones along with our luggage are 2 or 3 large backpacks that have all the over-the-counter medication that we can give students, and all the pills that and medicine that students take daily. Like my students are, my kids specifically, they might take an allergy medication daily, that kind of thing. So we know what each student needs to take. We have medicine for each student at breakfast each morning and at dinner each evening. We hand out that medicine for each student, make sure they're continuing with the course of whatever it is they need to take. So that student that needs a Allegra every single morning, they certainly will still continue to get that throughout the trip. One of the biggest things that parents can help us with is giving us the medication in advance of the trip, not bringing it day of, like, oh, here's the medication my kid needs, because there's so much going on the day of the trip. We really want to get all medication in hand, a week before or days before the trip actually occurs. So everything's organized and set up. It's very difficult when a student or a parent day of hands us a bunch of pills and says, these are for, Jimmy, thanks for taking care of it. Puts us in a tough spot. I mentioned the school policies that will inform the trip policies. I had a bunch of questions about vaccination status. That's where this kind of came up. For night groupings, will we be asking or grouping kids together by vaccination status? The school doesn't ask students individual vaccine status. We don't mandate vaccine status. We recommend that everybody get vaccinated. When you are deliberating and having your students voice their the people that they want to room with at night or be with during the day, you as parents can certainly have those conversations. Well, Jimmy wants to put you on that night list, but I want to make sure your child is vaccinated. You all can certainly have those conversations, but as a school, we don't mandate or ask whether a student has been vaccinated. The only person at our school currently that would do that is Nurse Ashley, if there was a positive case or an exposure in terms of the number of days needed to return to school. And masking, most of this trip will be outside. So most of this trip, masks won't have to be worn, as a lot of what we do is outside sightseeing. Masks will not need to be worn in the hotel rooms at night. Depending on school policies and depending on airline regulations, we may have to wear masks on the airplane. We may have to wear masks in the coach buses, things like that. But July is a long way away. And so a lot can happen between now in July, and I'm hopeful by the current numbers that we're seeing here at school, and the downslide in across the board, that we can be in a better place come July in terms of the procedures and protocols we have to have in place. Anything I missed? I think I covered everything health protocol wise. Todd, anything you want to add?
I think you covered everything there, Joe.
And the last big topic. Yep, go ahead, Alex. Sorry.
Just one thing that is a common question right now is DC's current requirements as far as vaccination. Currently, any indoor dining and how it affects the itinerary specifically for the group. Indoor dining requires proof of vaccination. We have ways to logistically work around this. So those changes we will put in place now. Should that change down the line and that restriction lift, we can make other changes if necessary. But right now that is the current restriction, and we're working around it for the group as a whole. So if you have specific questions, let me know, but that is where DC currently stands.
I appreciate that, because we obviously have our policies and procedures, and everyone else does too. So I appreciate you adding that. The last main topic, and I appreciate everybody staying on now through hopefully it's not too much information. Hopefully we're answering the questions that you have. The planned itinerary, we'll just brush on it quickly. I mentioned we stay busy. So many things to see: museums, memorials. Alex mentioned she's working on a baseball game for the kids, which I think would be great. Food and dinner. Alex, you want to take it away for DC and what we normally try to make sure we hit? I mentioned Arlington National Cemetery, Williamsburg and Colonial Williamsburg and Jamestown, Big Forest, that kind of thing. You want to touch on anything that I left out that we try to squeeze in?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, Joe, Williamsburg and Jamestown, that's kind of the front end of the trip. It's very exciting. We also do Mount Vernon, which is just a great follow-up to Williamsburg and Jamestown, where you then head into DC. The Air Force Memorial is a great one. As far as the National Museum of African American History and Culture. These are all the Smithsonian Museums, the American History and the Natural History Museum. A big one that the kids always love is the International Spy Museum. We're looking to get that one. And again, Arlington Cemetery, it's a great experience, especially doing the wreath lane. So we're working to get that scheduled. As of right now, unfortunately, the Capitol is still not open. We hope that changes come July, but if not, we do a great walking tour around the Capitol, have a conversation. The National Cathedral is a big one that I know you guys have done in the past. And then also looking to get the Udvar-Hazy Air and Space Museum, which is another big highlight for kids. They always really have a great time with that one. Some other highlights I would say would be a dinner cruise, pending on availability for that time of year, and also just restrictions working through that one. But hopefully that we'll be able to make that one happen as well. I think those are the big ones. There's just so much to see in DC. It is in a way overwhelming and also just amazing, the history and just what the kids will be able to experience overall. As Joe mentioned, we are keeping it largely outdoors, so the kids don't have to wear masks as much as other trips. The museums do require them indoors, but it's going to be a great experience, and really looking forward to buttoning up this itinerary and getting that to you guys. As I mentioned earlier, about a month prior, you'll be able to see the full picture with timing and things of that sort, as well the details on hotels and flights. So stand by for that. That will come from Joe and the school, and you can also ask any questions from us as well. So anything I missed, maybe Eric, that you would want to?
I would only say is you can continue to go back to the webpage that we have established for the trip, and you can look for updates there. And we will refresh as things kind of come together. So like Alex was saying, maybe making an appointment at Arlington National Cemetery for the wreath. As soon as that comes together, she'll refresh the page. So you can look at updates as we go along. Hotel will come into play eventually. Flights will come into play. And then you can see how the whole thing kind of comes together piece by piece. So we're concentrating on the appointment stuff that we have to get to first, and then kind of getting everything else involved. So we're not going from one side of town to the other side of town and wasting a bunch of time. So we want to just have a good kind of flow to the itinerary is what we're mostly looking for.
A couple questions that came through, and kind of they're about places that we go, and I'm happy to hear you talk about. Have a bus driver, we have a tour guide, for lack of a better term, that kind of takes us through. In my experience, a lot of times those tour guides, knowing where everything is, will kind of make adjustments on the fly based on traffic patterns or based on the busyness level of different things, saying, let's go here a little bit later because I can see there's a huge line, and we'll go to this memorial first, that kind of thing. A question about, can we go to the White House? It's bringing up a embarrassing and funny memory for me when we went to Colonial Williamsburg, and I had about a third of the students buy old bullets, like metal bullets that were round, like you put into a musket you'd shoot in colonial times. And then all of these kids brought bullets with them to the White House when we went through the security line. And I had to explain to the Secret Service agents why a third of our students had bullets when they were going to the White House. It's bringing back some tough memories. Is the White House shut down, Alex, or are they still, is it shut down like Congress?
There's no tours, unfortunately, but that may change. We'll keep an eye on it, and Joe, you and I'll communicate quite a bit as things change and maneuver, but as of right now, unfortunately, no White House.
And we have a question about the Holocaust Museum possibly being on the list. Alex, maybe you can make a note of that, see if it fits into, when we're putting everything together as a place that we might want to, check out. We appreciate everybody joining us. I really appreciate everybody's interest and taking the time. Eric, we have 18 people currently signed up, 18 students?
18 students currently registered. We're looking to finalize the group in and around March 11th. So keep that in mind.
Right.
That's the date you can register between now and then. Fantastic. We have some people that have filled out the registration but didn't complete everything. If you have questions, you can call our office. It's on the Grand Classroom website if you would like to look it up, or you can always email help@grandclassroom.com. Or the next way is there's an online chat you can do as well. So if you have questions with the registration process, please be sure to reach out. We're happy to help out.
We appreciate everyone taking the time to join us. We're all available should you have questions. We're looking forward to a great trip. There's more to come. I will forward the slides and this recording, so anybody on their own time can rewatch or watch for the first time. And I hope everybody has a great day. And we appreciate you taking some time out of your lunch hour to join us. Take care.